Tonight, new warnings about more attacks like the New Year's assault on the world's largest embassy, the fortress-like U.S. compound in Baghdad. Repelled for now by a massive show of U.S. military force. 100 more Marines to the embassy, 650 from Fort Bragg to Kuwait. Following 2 days of rioting, Iran-backed militias finally pulling up stakes and retreating after torching a reception area inside the embassy's perimeter. Defense Secretary Mark Esper telling us the group could be planning more attacks. What will happen if these Iranian-sponsored militants come back?
Enough is enough. This is part of Iran's malign behavior that they've been spreading across the region from Africa all the way through the Middle East into Afghanistan now for 40 years. And it's this type of bad behavior that simply needs to end. Esper also saying the U.S. could strike preemptively if U.S. lives were threatened. But attacks inside Iraq, where Iran has huge influence, can backfire. U.S. officials believe Iraq let the militants get close to the embassy, angered by American airstrikes inside Iraq last weekend against Iranian-backed militias. The president this week both threatening more action and saying he does not want war.
I don't think that would be a good idea for Iran. It wouldn't last very long. Do I want to? No. I want to have peace. I like peace.
So, Andrea, just how many American troops can be rapidly deployed to the region if needed?
Well, Lester, those troops that went to Kuwait are part of a brigade of nearly 4,000 troops in a global response force at Fort Bragg, always at the ready in case of further attacks. The Baghdad crisis is so serious, Secretary of State Pompeo is postponing his long-awaited first trip to Ukraine tomorrow to instead focus on Iran.
Hey, NBC News fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.